The courtroom fell silent and then gasped. Cameras clicked, phones trembled in people's hands, and a single sound echoed like a thunderclap, a kick. Detective Ryan Harkins, a decorated police officer with 20 years on the force, had just done the unthinkable. He kicked the black defendant, John Kennedy, in the middle of a packed courtroom. For a moment, time froze. The judge's gavel slammed, security rushed forward, and what had begun as a routine trial spiraled into one of the most explosive moments of public reckoning in the city's history. John Kennedy wasn't a criminal. He was a school teacher, a quiet, humble man who had dedicated his life to mentoring underprivileged kids on the city's south side. His only crime was standing up to the system. Months earlier, he had filed a complaint against Detective Harkins for racial profiling after being wrongfully detained and humiliated during a traffic stop. Instead of an apology, the system turned on him, charging him with resisting arrest. The case had drawn local attention, but nobody expected what would happen when Harkins took the stand. As John testified, his voice calm yet firm, he spoke about fear, about how it feels to be treated as less than human, about what it means to have your dignity stripped away. The courtroom listened. Harkins didn't. His face burned red, his jaw tightened, and when John turned to face him and said quietly, "You can take my freedom, but you can't take my truth," the detective snapped. In a burst of rage, he lunged forward and kicked John in the leg. The sound was sharp and shocking. Gasps filled the room. The judge immediately called for order, but it was too late. The moment was captured from every angle, already spreading across social media. Within hours, the video was everywhere. The hashtag #JusticeForJohnKennedy trended nationwide. Civil rights leaders, celebrities, and ordinary citizens demanded accountability. The department suspended Harkins pending investigation, but the damage was already done, not just to his career, but to the image of a system many had long believed was broken. For days, the city buzzed with anger and sorrow. News stations replayed the footage over and over, each time dissecting the look on John's face: calm, restrained, almost heartbreakingly dignified. Protesters filled the courthouse steps, holding signs that read, "We see you, John." Meanwhile, Harkins hid from the cameras. Once praised as a hero cop, he became a pariah overnight. Old cases resurfaced, the claims of excessive force, racial slurs, misconduct, all of them ignored or buried over the years. Now, they came roaring back like ghosts demanding justice. John, on the other hand, refused to let hatred win. In an emotional press conference, standing on crutches from the injury, he said, "What happened to me wasn't just about me. It was about every person who's been silenced, every person told their pain doesn't matter. But today, we're louder than fear." His words struck a chord across the nation. Donations poured in for his legal team. Civil rights lawyers took up his case, not just to clear his name, but to expose the system that had enabled men like Harkins for decades. As the trial for Harkins began, the courtroom was packed once again, this time, not with silent fear, but with defiant hope. Witness after witness came forward, testifying about the detective's years of unchecked abuse. Body cam footage, internal memos, and testimonies painted a chilling picture of corruption and prejudice buried beneath the badge. When the verdict was finally read, guilty on all counts of assault and misconduct, the cheers erupted. John stood quietly in the crowd, tears in his eyes, as justice finally caught up to the man who had once seemed untouchable. But the story didn't end there. In the weeks that followed, reform swept through the city's police department. New oversight committees were established, and for the first time, officers faced mandatory bias training. John went back to teaching, but he also began visiting schools, community centers, and even police academies, telling his story. His message wasn't one of vengeance, but of transformation. "Hate destroys the hater first," he told audiences, "but courage, it heals the world." And as the years passed, that single, shocking moment in court became a symbol, and not of despair, but of change. Because in the end, What destroyed the detective's life wasn't the public backlash or the loss of his badge, it was his own hatred. And what saved John Kennedy wasn't the court's verdict, it was his refusal to let that hatred define him. The world had watched the man be kicked down in public, but what they remembered must have broken bar was how he stood back up.